Hello, everyone. My name is Chance. I am a Code Fellows alum. I graduated the JavaScript program in October of 2019, I believe. I'm currently a TA and also a tutor for Code Fellows here in Seattle. I come from a non-traditional background. I'm one of those people who barely passed high school, did what I could to get out of my town. I spent 15 years or so in construction and management and decided I wanted to take the leap into web development. Here I am. Okay, basic intro. Now our topic, why you're here today. We're going to do intro to web scraping using Node.JS and Puppeteer. And we're going to talk about the tools of Puppeteer and how to implement them in a Node.js environment. First off, like why web scraping? Why web scraping? Why are we covering this topic today? And basically it's because data is big money. That is 90% of what the big three companies care about. We're pretty clear. Data is what everything's about at this point. Web scraping is essentially just a tool, a process that can gather information from a website. And how it works is, oh, geez, sorry, slides, no. Good start, good start. Okay. So we're gonna be using Puppeteer today. And essentially how it works is it simulates opening a Chrome browser, loading a page in, and providing it a URL. At that point, Puppeteer has access to every element on the page. You could scrape the entire thing if you just wanted all of a Google website. You wanted all the info for yourself. Fantastic. Maybe you just wanted a little piece of it. You're collecting numbers, maybe some comparison websites, prices on Amazon, that kind of thing. Your own little tools. And it's kind of like there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it, but I'm going to try to make it look simple and easy and at least accessible to you so that you can start scraping your own things. This is a very slide light demo. It'll be very much a code demonstration. A couple of things we're going to use today. Node.js, if you don't have it already, you can come find me after, we'll get you set up. We're going to use Node Package Manager to be able to install Puppeteer. And we need some excitement from the crowd. So let's get excited, people. All right. We are going to jump directly to code. And hopefully this looks okay for everybody. I'm not going to change to the white background because I just can't stand it. I apologize. This is where we're going to start. This is completely boilerplate. You can get it from the Puppeteer docs. I'm going to talk about what each one of it is, and then eventually we'll clean up these comments and get rid of it. First off, it is an async function. So those of you who are unfamiliar with promises, you're going to learn a little bit about them today. And those who are afraid of them, I'm going to show you how cool they can be. Very first one from the docs, let browser. We use this kind of like Express, basically, an app, which we'll get to. But the first two lines, lines 7 and 10, are just things that you need to start a browser and to load a page in the browser. Line 13, set up user agent. I'm going to cover this. I didn't need this for the demo today, but there are certain websites that have robot.txt files inside of them that are trying to look for robots trying to scrape them, and it will block you. Basically what this does is kind of tells it, I'm just a normal computer. I'm a normal human when I visit the website. I'm fine. You don't need to block me. Line 17. It's fundamental of any URL you want to put in here. We do need to provide a URL that we want to go scrape. This is what gets loaded into the page element that we defined on line 10. And to fire it up, basically to load the page itself, another await page go to our URL. And I'm combining a step, the wait until method. That can be written on a separate line, but it's very important, so I'm going to talk about it. In order for you to be able to access things on this page, you want to make sure that they're there before you start to scrape it. If you try to select an element and it's not there yet, you get all kinds of errors. There's a couple different ways to do wait until. There's network idle methods. That's what I picked from my demo. You can also select, you can select and wait for elements that are way down at the bottom of the page, like maybe a copyright, where you can check to be like, don't start scraping until you see this element loaded. That's fine. I didn't want to wait for any elements because what if there's not a copyright at the bottom of the page? That might be an issue for you. Once you have these basic sets, you're completely ready to scrape, minus the last part. Don't forget to turn it off when you're done. But right here, this is where all the magic in the world today is going to happen. So to be able to actually select an element, I'm going to assign it to a variable. It's going to be await again. Everything inside this is going to have to be await, basically, if it's a function. And I'm going to use evaluate. I will talk about some of the pitfalls of this throughout the course. But essentially, we're ready. We don't have anything to pick yet. Thank you, Codefellows. Codefellows volunteered to be the sacrificial lamb today to demonstrate this. And that's a topic I'm going to talk about really quick as well. Full disclosure, there is nothing illegal about web scraping, but there are a lot of companies who don't want you to do it. It is on you as the developer to research the terms of service completely to make sure that you're legally allowed to take information from a website. Most of the time for educational purposes, you get a pass. Reach out to the developers if you want to use something and demo it. Maybe they'll volunteer. They just don't want everybody taking everything for free. I did have this discussion with Codefellows, at least a Codefellow, and I do have permission. So at this point, we have all this cool information on the page. We could grab anything, all of it. Let's see, I'm going to ask for a volunteer from the video audience. Sean, is there anything you'd like me to prove that we can scrape at the moment?
You know, what really stands out is that mint green banner across the top. How about that?
All right. So as a human, that's a mint green banner. As a computer, it's got a label somewhere. Let's go find it. Let's open up our inspector tool. Let's pick out that element. All right, we got some IDs. Oh, I see Jeff Malik there. What else is in here? Okay. Oh, there's some of the text. That's pretty good. All right, let's try that. So if you're like me and avoid CSS at all costs, there is a point in time where learning it comes into play. Pretty much everything you're going to be able to access is based on a CSS selector. The element, an ID, a tag specifically, that's how you scrape everything. So you'll get better at it if you haven't done it in a while. And let's check it out here just to make sure. Document, query selector. This looks like jQuery or the original 201 document object model processes. That's what it should look like. I'm going to pick the class above it. That is emergency banner. Okay. All right, I got the class. What's inside of it? We got a P tag. We got an iframe. What else do we got? It's just in strong. That's technically the, oh, come on. I think that's still in the P tag. Let's take a look at the direct descendant P tag.
Real quick, Chance, I just noticed you had a spelling error in emergency banner.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
I am not a great speller, sorry.
Happens to all of us, no problem.
Here. How's that look? Better?
Much better.
Much better. All right. And then what might we want from this? Inner text. Inner text is pretty common if you're trying to pick out specific values. Hey, look at that. That looks pretty good. So far we have some success in the console. Let's see if we can take this to the web browser, to our code, excuse me. And we'll need to return this inside of it. And let's console log it after, see what we get for data. So, I think I have node none on here. Yeah. Cool. We're able to grab it. All right, so we have proof of life. This is awesome. We are officially web scraping. Now, what would you do with all this stuff? You have infinite information here on the web page. You just collect it all and say, great, like, yay for me, I have all the code fellow stuff. Don't worry, chance has your back. We have a goal today and a user story of what we're going to accomplish. Let's say that you were a student or a developer and you wanted to make an app where you wanted to scrape, let's say, so you wanted to see all the data of different code schools. Maybe what some of their placement stats are, how many companies hire for them, if they have scholarships. Maybe you also want to see some of their upcoming courses. You can go out to all these places by yourself. You can do all the research. You can see when courses are coming up. Great. That's all fine. But that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a stab at least collecting one website, because that's all I have permission for. And we're going to collect some good sell stats, some things that might sell the school and their upcoming schedule to an extent. So we're going to work piece by piece through that. And I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I'm not going to type all this out. There's going to be some copy and paste because the code gets fairly large at a certain point in time. Essentially, it boils down to this over and over again, and just how you collect it as you go. All right. So things I want to grab here. These are my targets personally that I've selected for our day. I want these stats from this page. And the reason I want these is because I want to highlight them as, hey, look, 93% of us are in the field already with a job placement. There's over 800 companies, $3.5 million in scholarships. This sounds like a great school. This would be some good stats to show. So to save us a little bit of time, because this got kind of weird at a certain point. Let's see here. We're going to go to this first one. And this first one means nothing to you because it's off the screen. You can't see it, but that's okay. Nothing is really different about what we did here, other than I changed some values around. And I happen to already know that these are the selectors. I'm going to address this in just a second, but I want to make sure this still works. So no months firing back up. Hey, look at that. Somebody already did a lot of work for us, made this look pretty nice, put it into an object with some extra fields. No, that doesn't come automatically, and this data will come to you quite weird. I'm going to specifically address this thing here and why I went from query selector to query selector all, and this whole funky line here. Will tell you that each website that you attempt to do this process on is different, and you will not always get just a plain text value back. You'll get crazy serialized objects, circular nodes in your console log, stuff that is like nothing to do with your values. This is just a big shout out to somebody on Stack Overflow that I spent hours till I found this answer to get it to work. This also has a lot to do with a lot of ugly cleanup data that I'm going to paste in here in a little bit. It's not really important or what the demo is. I just want to be able to show that As long as you put in a little bit of research, you can find anything you need to off of a website. It just might not come to you in the same form each time you try it. So basically, I'm going to call this one pretty good. That looks like our stats. That looks like what I was looking for. That's pretty sweet. What else do we want here? Oh yeah. We wanted a list of maybe some up and coming courses. All right. Looks like we got a lot of elements here. What should we get off of here? I think I'm going to get a date and a range, a title, and I personally know that these hour things I can tell the difference between nights and weekends, a single day course. That's not really printed out perfectly for me, but we'll get there. We're going to use that. So right now we're only on one page, and that's perfectly fine. The thing I'm about to show you is like, much like if you were trying to go to multiple APIs in sync, you can do the same thing with this code. There are some ninja things you can do with Puppeteer. It is a stretch goal for me. I decided that I needed to let it go. You can actually make everything happen in one single instance of Puppeteer. And the reason you might want to do that is because setting up a browser and loading a page and then shutting down your browser takes time. You'll notice as the more we add to this, this starts to get slower and slower. I had a product that I had to make and I didn't have time to figure out the ninja stuff. So I did it the brute force way, proof of life. Next thing we're going to bring in is we're going to bring in the ability to see multiple things and chain them all together. And trust me, there's nothing crazy about the code that we're bringing in, but it has gotten much larger. And to be fair to Puppeteer, a lot of this has nothing to do with it. It is my choice of how to clean a lot of this stuff up and make it look clean to demonstrate some other stuff. But essentially, you're still doing the same thing. You're awaiting a page evaluate, picking the selector, getting some information from it, and then it's up to you what you do with it after and how you want it to look. But this is what I wanted to show. This is the big difference. Previously, all of our code was right here. Guess what? This is a promise. Look, chain promises, my favorite thing. And then if you're going to have another promise inside of a promise, you probably better return it. But if NodeMon is treating you good still, okay, take your time. Cool. Look at all this beautiful data. I love it. As it would imply, there was a lot of work to get a clean object out of this, but we have actually created a stats with stats objects and some information inside of them. We have a list of upcoming courses. And then you can kind of see what the stats look like in there. There's some other properties on this object that I could clean up later. But essentially, there's a whole lot of crazy code in here to get a nice fancy console log. Let's see, where are we at for time? Too many windows. All right. So I've been talking a long time because basically only Sean can talk back to me. And I've made this really cool list. What might you do with this? Like, what would you do with this as a developer? You've done so much heavy lifting, at least, one of us has at this point. Like, that's pretty sweet. Why do all this stuff? I'm actually going to switch code bases here because I want to demonstrate what you can do with it other than just print out pretty cool console logs. I like my console, but it's not what we want to look at today. Let's see here. We want to go into JavaScript. I believe it's Get well, where did it go? It's somewhere. That's okay. Hopefully everybody can see this. This is what I was opening. We'll open a terminal on this side so we can turn it on. And yes, there's a lot of other stuff in here that you do not need to do for Puppeteer at all. This is here for demonstration purposes. So what's the first one? To demo what we were actually doing before, I'm going to say, this is the same code base we had. I'm going to make sure it's still working. All right, that still looks good. Now, one of the things you might want to do, and the reason I actually stumbled onto this technology is I had an app I wanted to make. Cool, I wanted APIs to do all the cool stuff for me. I'll put it together and I'll make it look nice. Several days later, we come to the point where there just isn't an API that I wanted, not even a couple that I could piece together. So let's start building one. That's how I actually started to learn this. So one of the things that you could do for that is maybe after you did all this super cool stuff, you wanted to start creating your own API JSON files. JSON, if that's your preference, that happens to be mine because I like it. Oh, hey, look at that. Get a little formatter. That might look familiar to some of you students. Sweet, you could send this off. You could technically deploy yourself anywhere you wanted to and become your own API server at this point. That's nice. One of the other things you might do. A lot of, at least if you've been through the 301 program, you're familiar with Express and just running a server in general. So you might also want to, we'll say full Express. Okay. So let's go to localhost. Cannot get, that's okay. We didn't write a route for that. Oh man, Puppeteer, you're slow. It's okay. We still love you. Oh, look at that. Nice, beautiful response object sent back. That's pretty cool. But, you know, not everybody likes looking at data this way like I do. So you might want to make it look a little bit cleaner. Let's go to say Express. Cool. We are rocking on 3000. No, we're not going to go here. All right. Looking good. What is this? This is the big red button. Should we push it? Push the red button.
Do it.
This would be a little bit cleaner of a format if you wanted to see, hey, Codefellows highlights. These are some of its awesome stats. Upcoming courses. We went ahead and took the hours out of them and changed them to something that might make more sense. Day course, night course, self-paced. One of the things about getting the dates back for this, getting one with no range, made it smash strings together. The data got all kinds of weird stuff. It was a great feature to work through last night. So there's some hurdles, even when you're getting data in and how you want to present it. But hopefully these were kind of 3 examples of what you could do with the data and how you might use it as a developer. At that point, honestly, I think we're done with the actual code demo. Hopefully you still have some excitement. I want to say thank you so much to Codefellows and all of you wonderful attendees. What I just demonstrated, the code base, is up on GitHub. I do recommend, if you want to use it, either find a different URL or ask Codefellows kindly if you have permission. And that's my demo. Thanks for coming. questions, please, anything. How did I do? It's good to see everyone.
So you have a couple of questions in the Q&A. Let's start off with David, who wants to know why not use beautiful soup in Python as opposed to Puppeteer?
Because I'm a JavaScript developer is my short answer. One day when I learn Python, beautiful soup sounds great. I think I also saw Selenium is similar to Puppeteer for them as well. This is my code stack that I'm good at, and this is what I chose to demo it as a short answer. I hope that helps. That's actually a good point. Sorry, before I move to the next question. It's not very super typical as a JavaScript developer to do this anyway. It's just an off thing that I wanted to research, and I'm excited about it. I like doing it. What's our next questions?
Yeah, Nicholas wanted to know if you could share the demo code. I will go ahead and take your link in your slideshow and put it up on Slack if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I can Slack both of them out after too.
Perfect. Then let's move on to Ethan. I am in the operations and security track. Could you talk about the potential uses of scraping as a researching tool in a security context?
Sorry. Can you rephrase the question or repeat it? I'm not sure I have an answer for that, actually.
Sure.
If you were in the security field, quite honestly, you probably will come across way cleaner, way more efficient tools to do this in the first place. I just haven't been exposed to them. And I would guess David, the instructor as well, would probably echo the same thing, that you will have a much easier time of doing this, living in Bash and script land. Sorry for a terrible answer. That's my best answer.
All right. So how about this one from Tom? This one's interesting. What is the future of web scraping?
Future of web scraping is probably depend on you actually as the developer of what use case you could see for it. I had my use case was I wanted to develop something and I didn't have a resource, and this was something I could do to create it. What you could do for a lot of this is, essentially, this is constantly what Google does anyway. They scrape every time you enter a keyword. They go out to the whole internet that they basically own at this point and scrape it all back and make it look pretty for you. It's kind of how search engines and all that stuff work in general. The future, in reality, we'll all code ourselves out of a job. And if you hang around tomorrow and watch Adam's presentation, who's fantastic, I'm happy to be part of it until that day comes. So I'm just going to enjoy it while it's here.
So there are two questions that I think kind of go together really nicely. Nicholas asked, how can we check if we would be legally allowed to scrape a website? And then JB wants to know, what might a site that didn't appreciate the scraping do about it?
Well, that's if you wanted to scrape a website and didn't have permission and they could legally come after you, I'd probably use a VPN. Specifically the reason that they have a terms of service is because, let's say I scrape everything that Google does on a search, and I develop Chance's search engine tomorrow, and all I really do is scrape Google and make it look like mine. If I end up with profits from that, then that's the big issue, is if you can profit off of somebody else's hard-earned labor of creating something else in the first place. That's when it gets into somebody might be knocking on your door. If you wanted to research this, whether you're allowed to or not, most web pages, not mine right now, but if you go down to that wonderful footer of all that stuff that hardly anybody checks out, privacy policy would probably be in here. You might see a terms of use. The sitemap maybe might have a link to like what their terms of service is in general. I would definitely figure it out before just hacking away at it. There's also the point of, to address that, like web scraping's cool in general, I really like it, but it's not really useful if you don't have a goal for it. You can scrape every website on the planet, but you know why? Unless you just wanted all the data, which I understand. Hopefully that helps as far as like I got full permission and was cleared to do this. I've only actually done this on one other place, and I'm not going to say because I didn't have permission, but it was just a test case and nobody knocked on my door. So it's up to you how much you want to risk.
Awesome. So Daniel had a question. He wanted to know, what are your favorite examples, stories, or most creative uses of web scraping?
I think it was the last Python class. They did a pretty cool example of scraping Twitter, and they checked it for hate speech or something. They were training a model. Yeah, they were using it in tandem with machine learning, if I remember correctly, where they were scraping and then training a model to recognize certain speeches. That's probably my most recent cool one I can think of. I mean, most of the cool websites you see, like, they didn't just invent all of it. It came from somewhere. I don't know. Good job, Python class. That's my recent example.
All right, going through more of these questions. We had one, what are you looking for when you look at the terms of conditions? I believe that you already covered that one, so I'm gonna go ahead, mark that one answered. And then there's kind of a two-parter. Again, these two questions go really well together. Is there a scraping API? And similarly, do APIs scrape to stay up to date?
There's a scraping API. We just built one. I don't know if there's a scraping API. Specifically, it's just using different tools to achieve it. Technically, Puppeteer wasn't made just to scrape. It's just made to simulate a Chrome dev environment. So you can test, you're just testing, you can use Puppeteer with it as well. That's probably more what it's used for, is actual analysis and testing of your own programs. I'm sorry, what was the start of that question? I kind of forgot.
That's all good. The kind of second part to it is, do APIs scrape to stay up to date?
I would totally guess so. You use a weather API in 301 at least. I'm guessing that there's not 20,000 different places that actually gather their own weather, but there's probably a lot of places that provide weather. So I would guess that a majority of those APIs probably scrape other places and update their API as they go, which is totally doable, because remember, they're just sending you a response object anyway that they have stored. It's pretty easy to check. Hey, does this value look different than it did from timestamp before that I'm checking against? If so, change my data. That's how I would approach it. So I'm guessing several other companies do so as well.
Awesome. Last one in the list right now. What are some of the ways to prevent getting blocked when scraping?
Well, so I can just refer back to the one line. I found this in a demo, and it's referenced a lot in different documentation of the set user agent. And this might not work. Basically, it's just telling it, it's trying to give me like a backstage pass. So I'm okay. I'm a regular human. I'm not trying to steal anything specific. If this doesn't work and you still get blocked, then that's kind of where, if you really want the information, then maybe you should, send an email to the team that you're trying to take the information from. I'm sure, ultra hackers can steal anything. I'm not that person. I'm still learning, just like everybody else. deadline 32. That's my answer of your best shot at getting through and not getting blocked.
That's a really interesting line. Is that specific to your system?
Yeah, and if you don't know what your user agent is, just you can go to Google, type in, what is my user agent? Hey, look at that. Pretty easy to find.
That's an awesome little trick. Love it. All right, any other questions?
Thanks, Jason. Hopefully nobody does knock on my door in the next hour. If they do, Brooke lied to me. I'm saying that now so everybody heard it.
Brooke's always up to something.
But
All right.
that's it, and we're done. Thank you for sticking with me. Hopefully it was a semi-accessible how you could approach this and get started with it. Post the code in Slack afterwards. I'm looking forward to seeing all your 201 examples afterwards, so I'll be there as well. Have a wonderful Friday, everyone.
Thanks so much, Chance. That was
Thank
really
you.
great.
Thank
I'm
you.
so excited to see this in JavaScript as a Python student. It's really interesting to see another way of going about the same situation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
You too.